The last one that we're going to talk about is the newest one on the marketplace, which is the spore-forming soil-based organisms. This one's really, really interesting because the soil-based probiotics, so the theory about these soil-based, the spore-based probiotics, so we call them soil-based, but they're not. The theory is that when we lived back before we had industry and we were, we lived in our brick houses, we'd be exposed to water and foods from the soil. We wouldn't wash our foods. Our hygiene wasn't nearly as good. And so we'd be exposed to these soil-based spore organisms all the time. And when they're in the soil, they're in their spore form. When they're in the water, they're in their spore form. When you swallow them down, they're still in their spore form until they hit the large intestine. Once they hit the large intestine, they break free of their spore form and they become this crazy reproducing bacterial species. Because the theory is the local environment of the spore-based probiotic is in the intestine. So that's where they live. When they're outside of the body, they can be in this dormant state as a spore, but once they get beyond our stomach and into our small bowel, they explode and start reproducing like crazy because that's where they belong. It's really, these are really, really interesting. The research that's coming out of them is really, really interesting. They have studies on that the spore-based probiotics bring down triglycerides and improve a lipid panel. They're doing some studies right now at looking at periodontal disease, and it seems like using the spore-based organisms will bring down periodontal disease. The only asterisk that I give with these particular species is most of the research is coming out of the companies that are producing it, which is, similar to a drug model. Most of the research on drugs come out of drug companies, but it does just give us a little pause because we don't have any validated information that's not coming out of companies.